Welcome to the Hub of Champions, part of Believe Network, joined by Boston Celtics reporter Justin Turpin, who, by the way, is back for the second time, for the first time since February. Can you believe that? Nah,
It's
I'm
been that
Shippy
long, huh?
Wrights. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, and follow the pod, and tell all of your Boston sports fans do the same. You can watch us on Believe TV across the country in airports and on YouTube. Read the top Believe stories on si.com and follow us across all of our Believe socials. Justin, last time I had you on, I believe it was February, and here we are pretty much 4 months later, about to embark upon what we thought was going to happen back in February. So, Justin, how are you doing and how are you feeling as we are now 48 hours before the start of the NBA Finals at the time of this recording?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. What's there not to be happy about right now? Covering the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, it doesn't get much better than that. So I'm doing great, and thanks for having me back on. If I remember correctly, last time we talked, we were
Yeah.
previewing a potential Celtics Knicks Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, for those of you that did not see the last episode I had did with Justin, this was back in February. And we were hoping that it would be Celtics Knicks potentially in the Eastern Conference Finals. But the Knicks fell short in game 7 of the Eastern
Injuries caught
Conference
up.
semifinals against the Pacers. But the Celtics did make it here, and that was expected. Even going back to February when we had our podcast discussion about the Celtics and what would they need to do and all that fun stuff, you can go back and listen on iHeart or wherever you find the podcast, and as well watch it on YouTube. But here we are at the beginning of June, and the Celtics are in the NBA Finals, and this doesn't shock anybody. Like 2 years ago, you could say that it was a shock. It was because I remember the 18 and 21 start. People were pissed off. I was pissed off in the city in which that I said, you know what, changes need to be made in terms of the roster, the personnel. No one thought from the 18 and 21 start that the Celtics would end up going to the East to the NBA Finals. But here we are 2 years later, 2 full years later. The Celtics are in the NBA Finals, but the difference being this was actually expected from September. This team, after they went out and they acquired Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, and obviously getting Xavier Tillman at the trade deadline, and so forth. This was expected, and when the Celtics got off to the start that they got off to, everybody and their mamas and their grandmothers and aunties in New England across the country who are also Celtic fans, and everybody in national media was saying Celtics should get to the finals. They should win the finals. So this doesn't come as a shock. But just I'll ask you, 2 years ago, the Celtics definitely shocked us all after the start that they got off to. This year, and we talked about this in our last pod interview back in February, that this was the expectation. But what makes this run to the finals even more remarkable than what it was 2 years ago in your mind?
Yeah, I'll start with your first point where this was absolutely the expectation. It was always viewed at the beginning of the season as a two-man race between them and the Bucks. Obviously, the Bucks had a disastrous year, turned out to be nothing that they dreamed of. It was just a total train wreck for them. So once
Oh, yeah.
Milwaukee really started to go south, it was obvious that this was the Celtics' year to win the Eastern Conference, to get back to the NBA Finals, and they did just that. And the way I look at it is just the way they're taking care of business. I think that's the most impressive thing, because even look back at the 2022 run. You played 2 game 7s to get to there where you want to be.
Yep.
Now you're wrapping everything up in at least 5 games. I mean, they're just coming out and taking care of business on a nightly basis. And that shouldn't be lost in translation here. I know that they are head and shoulders the most talented team in the Eastern Conference, and they certainly caught some breaks on the way with star players missing time, but this is still the NBA playoffs. This is still the big leagues. It's not easy to win these games. And the Celtics are coming in on a nightly basis and just blowing teams out of the gym. And they just cruised to the NBA Finals with arguably their third most impactful player hurt. So, I mean,
Mhm.
just that shouldn't be lost in all the mix of things.
Absolutely. And I absolutely agree because now 12 and 2 is nothing to sneeze at. Now, if you are a certain age and you're watching this podcast or listening to the podcast, wherever you're listening, you may not be old enough to really remember the 2001 Lakers run. They were 16-1. Yes, 16-1. I'm old enough to remember, and even as a 9-year-old, soon to be 10-year-old kid in 2001, watched that finals run for the Lakers and the championship run in the midst of the three-peat. That team was far and away the best team in the West. I mean, forget about just only the West, the league. There was a reason why that Kobe and Shaq, outside of maybe Jordan and Pittman, but I would even say like Kobe and Shaq is the greatest 1-2 punch in league history, the most dominant. You're talking about those dominant big men in league history. Now you fast forward to 2024, the page on the Celtics, they have gone 12-2, and I've heard a lot of crap from the national pundits. Who have they played? The top guys for those teams were out injured. That's not the Celtics' problem.
Right.
Like, you look at the first round, was it the Celtics' problem that Jimmy Butler was hurt? No. Was it the Celtics' problem that Donovan Mitchell was hurt? No. Was it the problem of the Celtics that Tyrese Haliburton was hurt for the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals? No. You can only play who and what's in front of you. So, Justin, like, to all of the national pundits that we've heard over the last, I would say, almost a week and a half now, as we're getting closer to the NBA Finals, Game 1, to all of the naysayers and the doubters about this team and what we have seen and known literally from day one of this season, what do you say to the critics and the naysayers?
I say it's getting old. It's just getting old. It's been the same thing revolving this team for years now. And granted, they haven't gotten over the hump. But when your superstars are 26 and 27 years old and you've sustained this just remarkable success, there is something to be said about that. And now, in years past, it was always the Celtics can't rise to the occasion. They make things difficult for themselves. Look at last year, for example. And we already talked about the year before. They go through 2 Game 7s to get to the NBA Finals. Last year, you go 6 with Atlanta, 7 with Philly, and then you go down 0-3 to Miami. They always made things difficult for themselves. Now they've changed that narrative, and they're taking care of business, doing what people expect them to do, and it's still not good enough. It just makes no sense to me. There is just nothing that this iteration of the Celtics can do that will please these national pundits. It's just getting old. They're doing exactly what people asked them and begged them to do for years, and it's still not good enough. It just makes absolutely no sense to me. And like you said, it's not their fault that these players were injured. They're not just going to start resting players and playing down to competition because these players are injured. So I guess my one message to them would just be like, it's getting old. Like, they're doing exactly what you wanted them to do, and it's still not good enough.
And it's stunning that it's still not good enough when I listen to pundits like Michael Wilbon or Stephen A. Smith or Colin Cowherd and so forth. And I hear this almost every single day, in which that, well, like they've knocked on the door for so many times, and they just have not been able to finally burst through, if you will. Now, what you're seeing is a team not only clearly, and I mean, they look ready to finally break through. And in the cusp of doing that, the Celtics got some big news. And I would probably say, like, the Celtic fans got some big news earlier today on this Tuesday, 2 days before Game 1, on the day of the recording, that Kristaps Porzingis is a full ready to go for Game 1 of the NBA Finals. He's coming back, and he has been out since April 29th. Justin, how huge is this? And there are people that are wondering, how healthy is Kristaps Porzingis going to be for Game 1? But how big is it going to be for the Celtics to finally have him back for the first time since April 29th?
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. And especially in this series, I think a lot of people usually, when you talk about Kristaps Porzingis, kind of gravitate towards his offensive prowess and what he does on offense, how he's able to space the floor, how he's able to act as a screener, obviously a 3-level scorer. But in this series in particular, against this young front court They're athletic, they're quick, they're talented with Dallas. I look at his defense, and you look at games 3 and 4 against Indy, where they were just kind of parading to the rim. And at times, they built up some big leads because the Celtics weren't hitting their shots on the other end, and Indy just kept getting easy twos just because they lacked a formidable rim protector like Kristaps Porzingis. So I think that's the biggest part of this. And obviously we know what he does with the offense. He's been their safety valve all year. Whenever they need a bailout, they get it to him at the nail. They get it to him in the post, whatever it may be. Let him facilitate. So this is huge. Even if he's not 100% healthy, he's still a difference maker out there. He's still a guy just with his 7'2" frame that's going to be a difference maker, that's going to make plays. So this is a huge boost for them. And they've talked about it all year. Even Jayson Tatum said it after the Miami series. I think it was game 3 or game 2 or 3, where he said he's arguably the most important piece to what they're trying to accomplish. So this is why they went out and got Kristaps Porzingis. They were able to overcome him being sidelined, obviously going 9-1 in those games he was out. But this is why you go get Kristaps Porzingis, and he's going to make all that difference.
I think when you talk about the matchups in this series, Porzingis versus who on the Mavericks do you look at and you say that player matches up well against Porzingis? I can't think of one, which is part of the reason why, like, we talk about mismatches potentially in this series. Let's say it's Porzingis against Luka Doncic. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, whereas the mismatches alone that Porzingis would create against the Mavericks, the problems that it poses for the Mavericks defensively, who going into the finals, they played some pretty good defense. They just came up for a series against Minnesota in which that it was actually pretty impressive. Yet, I dare I say, surprising how well they were able to like slow down Minnesota's offense with Anthony Edwards and as well as Karl Anthony Towns in company.
Yeah, and you know what the best thing about him too is he's going to pull guys like Gafford, like PJ Washington, even Derek Lively. He's going to pull them out. He's going to stretch that floor on both ends. So it's just his intangibles, the things he does that don't show up on the stat sheet are what's going to make the big difference in this series. And like I said, it's just his presence alone, just him being out there is going to cause problems. And he still has a couple more days to rest up here. So the one thing I would be worried about with him coming back is matching that physicality. He hasn't played since April 29th, like you said. Coming into the postseason, one of the biggest question marks surrounding him was how would he react to the physicality of the NBA playoffs? How would he handle it? All in all, I thought he did a good job staying physical with Bam Adebayo in round 1. But now you've been out for over a month, and now you're getting thrown right back into things on the grandest stage that is the NBA Finals. So that would be one thing I'm a little bit worried about, is just how he matches that physicality, especially if he's not 100% confident in his health and how that calf feels. Obviously, he's confident enough because he wouldn't be playing if he didn't feel he could. So he feels he can, but even listening to him today at the podium, it felt like there were some times where he wasn't exactly confident. He didn't feel great about where it was. So I worry about the physicality a little bit, but what he brings to the floor is just enough to be a game changer in itself.
You've been at the practices and you've seen like the players, like work on like certain drills and schemes at practice and so forth. What's the vibe surrounding the team right now? And Joe Mazzulla, who, dare I say, I have not seen him more pissed off that I have seen him in the last few days, especially when it comes to the whole narrative of trying to split the Jays, Tatum and Brown, obviously. But I get the sense that Joe Mazzulla is more pissed off, but in a good way, than he has been in the two full seasons he's been the head coach.
It all starts at the top with Joe Mazzulla and this whole mindset of winning the game, winning the day, winning the practice, whatever it may be. Focus on one thing at a time. And that all starts with Joe Mazzulla. So I think this whole mindset of them coming in and just playing the right way on a nightly basis starts with him. And he deserves a lot of credit, even to his press conferences. Like you said, just standing up for those guys, standing up against like how it's annoying him, how he's getting frustrated, how just like we were talking about, how the national pundits can't find something better to talk about. So I give Joe a lot of credit. And to answer your question, just the feel around the team, it feels like they're locked in. Unfortunately, the practices aren't opened a ton to the media. You really only see the back end of it. That's going to change actually for the finals. We'll be getting a peek at least 30 minutes of it, which is exciting, but they're locked in. I mean, these guys know, and I think they have known throughout the entire season, even in the preseason, they know that they have the opportunity to do something special, and they want to take advantage of that. So they're locked in. They're focusing on themselves. They're out ignoring the outside noise, and this balancing expectations is nothing new to them, right? It's been, like you said at the top of the show, it's been an expectation that they would get to the NBA Finals. That's easier said than done when that's breathing down your neck, and they didn't let that bother them. So looking forward, I think, like you said, credit to Joe Mazzulla, and I just think these guys are locked in.
Silly question, but I'm going to ask anyway, because I am missing home tremendously. I really am. What is the vibe around the city right now as we're getting closer to the start of the NBA Finals? The excitement level and just the atmosphere. What, like, paint the picture for us, like, in the audience.
I mean, these people are excited. They've been spoiled since the turn of the century. These people are starving for a championship, and now
it's been
they
5
finally
years. Damn it!
It's been 5 years. It really, for most markets, that's totally normal. Like, you wouldn't be stressing about 5 years without a championship. That's just not how things are here. So these people, they're hungry, man. And I think, like, I don't know if you saw the video. David Ortiz was out at Fenway Park tonight.
I quoted it before we went on. Yeah.
Oh, come on. If that doesn't get you going, if that doesn't get you excited,
Woo!
I don't know what will. There's going to be legends poking around the Garden. This atmosphere is going to be electric. And obviously, can't believe we haven't even touched on it yet. Kyrie Irving coming to town. You know that's going to only intensify things a lot more. So these people are hungry, man. They are ready for another parade. They're ready for another championship. And they think, and I think everyone does, I think everyone feels that this is the chance to get it.
And we hadn't touched on Kyrie yet for good reason. And it was part of one of the major topics I'm planning to touch on, because it is a talking point. And in fact, bump it. I'm gonna just talk about it now because
let's do it.
It is worthy of discussion. It's been a talking point for about a week now. Once we knew that the Celtics they completed the sweep over the Pacers, and that Dallas was up 3-0, it's like, okay, it's gonna be against Kyrie and Luka. And obviously the focus and the focal point has been on Kyrie's return to Boston, leading a team to the NBA Finals, in which it was 5 years ago. The team that we thought at the time, and I personally thought at the time, was going to be the team that broke through for Banner 18, things literally fell apart. It fell apart. It started to fall apart, in my opinion, like around December, January, right before the All-Star break. And then the All-Star game, Kyrie's talking with KD. And in the moment that he started getting pressed about, oh, what were you talking to KD about? Like, and then he gets all defensive. That changed everything for that team.
Yeah, everyone
5 years later. Yeah, 5 years later, he's actually not just a passenger. He was never a passenger, but he's actually been the engine, the driving force behind this Mavericks run to the NBA Finals, and their first since winning it all in 2011. So my question to you, Justin, is kind of like a two-parter, if you will. The first part is, do you truly believe that Kyrie can and will have a monstrous impact offensively in this series, given that we've seen the defensive commitment from Tatum in these playoffs? And number two, if the Mavericks are going to somehow surprise and upset the Boston Celtics in the NBA Finals, do you think that Kyrie's leadership will play a big role in that, as it's been a big role in the Mavericks run up until this point?
Yeah, I'll start with the first part of that question. If we were giving the benefit of the doubt to guys like Tyrese Halliburton and guys like Donovan Mitchell that they were going to have a game where they pop off, it's going to happen with Kyrie Irving because he's also a second option. So all this attention is going to be on Luka Doncic. Kyrie's going to get open, and he played well against the Celtics this year. I got it right here. He averaged 21 points, 5 rebounds, 2.5 assists. But this is the number that really stood out to me: is he and Luka and Kyrie combined for 112 of Dallas's 220 points against the Celtics this season. That's over 50%. And if you
Wow.
include the assist in there, they scored or assisted on 73 of Dallas's 90 makes. That's 81%. So they're going to go through these guys. It's no secret. If you even pull up the stats on NBA.com, just look at the field goal attempts. It's Luka, Kyrie, and then a steep drop off. So Kyrie's going to get his, Luka's going to get his. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to live with. And that's something the Celtics have done all year long. They'll let you have it. It's just how much are they willing to let you have? So I look at it that way. And to your second point here about Kyrie's leadership, it seems like every team that does break through, that does win a championship, has a former champion on their roster.
Yep.
And for the Mavericks, that guy is Kyrie Irving. He's been there. He's done that. He's going to be the one catching the brunt of the heat coming to Boston. So they're going to rally around him. And he's going to have the floor. He's going to be the one kind of directing traffic, talking to them. So I think it's going to be a big part. And I don't think you should overlook, like, the part of the championship experience should not be overlooked, especially when you're talking about a guy like Kyrie, who's been there, done that, and done it in the biggest moments.
And that's part of the reason why I am so excited as a Celtics fan, like, just for this series, because not just because of Kyrie coming back. We obviously know and remember what happened, everything that happened 5 years ago.
Right.
But you talked about something that I think, in my opinion, we're not talking about enough in terms of the Boston sports radio perspective. When you talk about the current stars, the young stars, that is, of the NBA, we obviously know about Tatum and Brown. That goes without saying. We also know about Luka Doncic. Doncic is 25 years old, and this is his first time at the NBA Finals. I don't think that's really talked about enough. And Doncic has been that guy. He's had that dog in him now for a better part of 5.5 years. And this is his first crack at a title. Like, let's talk about Luka Doncic and what this moment means to him in terms of an opportunity to add his name to the NBA record books, and as well as, like, the championship low, because after all, we just saw Nikola Jokic do so last year for Denver. We saw Giannis Antetokounmpo break through 3 years ago. But now Luka is now in the spotlight of all spotlights of the NBA. Let's talk about it.
Another thing that we talked about back in February was Jayson Tatum's case to become the face of the league. And had this not been a return of Kyrie and a return of Kristaps Porzingis, the overarching biggest storyline in the series would have been Jayson Tatum versus Luka Doncic. And it still is a big storyline. I think people are still talking about it, but not necessarily as much, just because of the returns of some rivals here, some sports villains returning to their old homes. So when you look at it, though, it's like, this is big. This is big for Luka, and it's big for Jayson Tatum, because these are the two guys that are kind of fighting for who's going to be the next face of the league. And once you have a championship under your belt, that only propels you even further. We've talked about it. I remember doing it in February. Yeah. Guys like LeBron, guys like Curry, KD, they're on their way out. The league needs some fresh blood. They need new faces of the league. And that right now, Jayson Tatum and Luka Doncic are right in the thick of that contention. So when you look at it, this is big for both of them. And one of them's going to break through. One of them's going to get their first title. And whoever it does is going to have the upper hand in that discussion.
Absolutely. And you talk about faces of the league, and I'm so glad you mentioned it, because this was another talking point that I want to touch on. Faces of the league right now: Luka Doncic, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown. And if you want to just limit to just those three because they're in the finals, have at it. But before the finals tips off, if you had to pick between one of those three as being the current faces of the NBA, who would you pick and why?
I lean Jayson Tatum. Obviously, I think there's some home roots in there where he's the one I see most. But you look at it, this guy has just had nothing but success since coming to the league. 5 Eastern Conference Finals trips in 7 years, 2 trips to the NBA Finals. The guy's name is already all over the record books. And for whatever reason, I don't think the national pundits help him out. I hate to keep going back to it, but it's the reality. It's the hard truth. These people don't do him any favors, right? When all the discourse surrounding Jayson Tatum is just always so negative. It's so bizarre at this point. Like,
it's weird.
Was it not weird? Like the whole thing with Get Up, I believe it was, when they're showing the reaction to Jaylen Brown. Jayson Tatum is jumping up and down, smiling. They highlight it and then proceed to say that he wasn't smiling or that he wasn't happy. It's just so weird, the whole discourse around him. And it really doesn't make any sense to me for a guy that's had such incredible success at such a young age to get viewed the way he does. It's so bizarre to me, but I would lean Jayson Tatum strictly based on success. I mean, the guy comes in and night out, and you can expect him to win games. You can expect him to be on the primetime games. Why? Because he's on the best teams, and he's the best player on the best teams. So I don't think that should be overlooked. And I know that's something a lot of people hate to bring up when you're talking about MVP candidacies and whatever. Best player on the best team shouldn't count for anything. It should count for something. I'll tell you what it does count for: when you're the face of the league. Because those best teams are the ones that are broadcast on the national TV outlets. Like we said, I keep going back to our past conversation. It aged pretty well, apparently. That right around we talked, they had a stretch of 10 games in February where they were all on national TV.
Yeah, correct.
Something like that, 7 of 10. That to me is a face of the league. That is somebody the league wants to put on. They want to put his team on. They want to put that player on. And anytime they're broadcasting, promoting Celtics on ABC, TNT, whatever it may be, it's always Jayson Tatum's face. So that to me is the face of the league. So to me, I go Jayson Tatum.
I would go with Jayson Tatum as well, and not for the fan in me just saying that, but because you talk about face of the league, you want to be marketable. And I'm not saying that Jaylen Brown isn't. I'm not going the Stephen A. moronic route of Jaylen Brown is not marketable. You moron. I'm saying that Jayson Tatum, when you think of the promos, when you talk about the Celtics, obviously, you have Tatum and Brown, but it's predominantly Tatum, and that's no shade towards Jaylen Brown whatsoever, because Jaylen Brown is also that guy. He's also got that dog in him, so it's not even splitting between the two. But for the sake of conversation, I think that when you look at Tatum, and it really pisses me off, and over the last week that I've had to hear a lot of this, where the people are questioning his toughness. People are questioning whether he's got that killer instinct. Like, hello, have you not been watching the same games we've been watching? Didn't Tatum just average 30 points in the Eastern Conference Final sweep over the Pacers, and yet we're still questioning his ability to get it done? Like, where does it end? Where does it end when it comes to the discourse surrounding Jayson Tatum, most particularly Tatum, because it seems like the shots and arrows are just coming at him at every single which way that in a direction in terms of nationally and locally. And it's like, we obviously know the only way that can stop is if the Celtics win. But at this point, I think it's unfair.
It's totally unfair. And it's never made sense to me. It's always been the things surrounding him. But like I said, I mean, the guy is just constantly winning. And that to me should warrant some respect. And he's doing it at a high level, playing at a high level night in and night out. And unfortunately, even if they win, are they going to get that monkey off his back? Are they? Because everyone's already making excuses. Oh, the Celtics had the easiest run to the NBA Finals. They drew a 5 seed. A 5 seed's never won.
Justin, I'm sorry.
It's so bad. It's so bad. It's so lame and outdated at this point.
It really is. That line alone pisses me off, because again, like, the easiest run to the like, are we going to sit here and disrespect the opponents that the Celtics played this entire postseason?
There's also no such thing.
This is ignorant and asinine.
Right?
Where was the same conversation a year ago when Denver made its run to the title?
Correct.
It wasn't there. It wasn't there.
It's never been a thing.
Go back and look at the opponents that the Nuggets played. Where was those discourse then?
I'll tell you, this has just been something that's blown my mind. Only Jayson Tatum could get discredited for winning games in the postseason. Only the Celtics and Jayson Tatum would that happen to, for taking care of business and winning games in the postseason. Like you said, any other team does it. It's like, oh, it's a great run. But no, it's the Celtics and Jayson Tatum. So we got to make some ridiculous excuse. It makes no sense to me. And shout out to him because that's not easy to handle. Him
Yeah,
and
and like
Jaylen.
and the fact that they both have been so laser focused, it just gives me that feeling that they're ready. But before we go into the finals, I actually want to go back and look back at the Eastern Conference Finals, and not because of the on-court stuff that took place, especially in games 3 and 4. There was an interesting trip that took place between Celtic beat writers and reporters that cover the
There,
team,
there sure was.
and I saw it, and it involved I think three of the four that I actually that I follow or know, including yours truly, you. The other one, Bobby Kravitsky, and as well as I think Noah.
Yep.
Like Noah's all like the 3 out of 4 that I know. How was the road trip? Because I'm sorry, that road trip looked long as hell. And like, I mean, you sit in the car for that damn long. I'm sure you had to want to kick windows out at some point because I need to get out of the car and stretch my damn legs. Like, how was the trip? And tell us about that pickup game that you played as well.
It really wasn't bad. So we actually did the road trip for Cleveland and Indiana. It wasn't bad.
Wow.
It saves a lot of money. That's the first thing. So you look at it as like for every mile and every minute you're driving, you're getting paid, but like just putting it back in your pocket.
That's
So
true.
I think that's a good way to look at it. But when you have like 4 people in there and you're all splitting the driving, everyone's just kind of talking shop, whatever it may be, Celtics, NBA, we're watching some of the games, we're writing, we're working during it. So it really flies by. So it wasn't bad at all. I mean, coming back sometimes after like you're up late from the night before, heading back because it's a post game, and that time was a little rough, but it really wasn't that bad. But for the basketball, man, I wish CLNS had the videos rolling in Cleveland because I'm much better outside. I'm a much better outdoor player, and everyone's gonna say I'm making excuses because there was no video. Ask my guy Kari Thompson from the Globe. He'll tell you
Yeah.
I was killing them with my 3-point shooting in Cleveland. Not in Indy though. I was getting cooked in Indy. I couldn't see. Here's the thing, like. I'm kind of like Sam Hauser, but like with less defense. Like if my threes aren't falling, man, oh, forget about it. Forget about it. At least Sam makes up for it on the defensive end. I'm a slouch on defense, man. I'll be the first to admit it. So I need the shots to be falling, but it was good. It's a lot of fun. I prefer playing outdoors, but I will see if we can do that in Dallas. It's going to be way too hot, I think. And for those wondering, we're definitely not driving to Dallas.
I was gonna ask, like, I am certain that WEEI is sending you down to Dallas. Like, I mean, to cover the finals of obviously for the Celtics and so forth. What are you most looking forward to in terms of your trip down to Big D? And the other part of it is this. I don't know how many Boston sports fans realize this, but Dallas has had a little bit of a run in the last 9 months, if you will. The Texas Rangers, they're the defending World Series champions, in case any of you may have forgotten. The Dallas Stars, despite the fact that they just got eliminated by the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference Finals, they made it to Western Conference Finals. And the Mavericks are in the NBA Finals, vying for their second championship in franchise history. So Dallas has got a little mojo going right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for Dallas. One, because Indy was incredibly boring. There's not a lot to do in that city. So I'm looking forward to Dallas, but I've never been too. And I've always just kind of wanted to go. One of my bucket list, ironically, was actually Ben Jerry's World and seeing a Cowboys game. So unfortunately, they won't be playing, but I am excited to get out to American Airlines Center. And it's the NBA Finals on the road. This is my first time this is my second year covering the team. My first NBA Finals. So I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And I'm sure that the atmosphere is going to be absolutely electric in Dallas, but it's going to be even more electric in Boston come Thursday. Now, speaking of Boston, and there was news that broke earlier on Tuesday that made me excited, but on the sentimental side, a little sad. I won't be there to fully enjoy it, but very excited as a fan. For the first time ever, the Boston Celtics and TD Garden, they're partnering up with the city of Boston to host viewing parties for games 3 and 4. Something that didn't happen in 2008, and it happened in 2010. It didn't happen 2 years ago in 2022. It's happening now. And it just only adds to just how special this is for Celtic fans and media and everyone that's covering like the team and just everything that's happening surrounding this 2023-24 team. When you heard this news, like what was your thoughts and your reactions to something that Boston sports fans have been waiting for years? Because I even posed this question as far as the Boston Bruins was concerned, like why the hell did they not do viewing parties for the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals when the Bruins were away? And I wondered, and I asked people inside the Garden at the time when I was in Boston working there, asking like why wouldn't the Celtics do viewing parties for the 2022 NBA Finals, despite the fact that I was, as I mentioned, I was in fact there for Game 6. I was on the court to help construct the stage, but it wasn't the same as they're having it in the arena. Like, how awesome is that?
That's awesome. And like you said, it's just long overdue. I can't believe they haven't been doing these. Granted,
Yeah.
there's probably a bunch of stuff going on. Logistically, it's probably a lot easier said than done. They're working concerts, whatever it may be, in and out of there. So maybe it's that, but I mean, it's been long overdue. We were talking about it, just how passionate these people are, these sports fans in Boston. They love their games. They're going to show out. They want to watch it together. They want to celebrate this together. They want to take it in together. So this was long overdue. And I was so excited
Yeah.
when I saw it. It kind of hit me by surprise because I just figured it'd be business as usual, wouldn't really be anything. But this is awesome. And another thought I had too is like a lot of these stadiums will do them outside. Unfortunately, that's just not possible with the Garden, just based on the location.
It's
There's
just it's,
nowhere
it's
to do it
impossible.
outside. I
Mhm.
think the Red Sox have done something like that in the past at like Boston Common, but it's not really the same.
Yeah.
Like when you're out front of the stadium, like it's a lot cooler. So I'm excited for it. It's gonna be awesome, and I think it's gonna be a great atmosphere.
And I think that's part of the reason why I'm so excited, because like I know they have closed down Canal Street as part of like whenever like the Celtics or Bruins were playing, but obviously now with the Celtics, but for them to finally, have the viewing party in the building, I'm like, man, it's about damn time. And I'm all for it. And I think it's wonderful in terms of like even if like the tickets are, I guarantee you they're going to sell out because they're going
Oh,
$18 per
and
pop,
they're
by the way.
affordable. Right. I'm glad that you
Yeah,
brought that
it's
up
gonna, it's gonna
because
sell out.
for
The
most
only
of these
other thing
people,
that I can
right?
I can equate this to, well, it's not remotely the same exactly. I was at the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals on practice at TD Garden when the Bruins had the practice at the Garden prior to the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals. I was there. Tickets for that sold out in a matter of just minutes.
Right. I forgot
And
they did that.
yeah, people may forget that, but like in 2019, if you were there, I was there. If I was fortunate to have been there, they have practice because remember there was an 11-day layoff between the end of the Eastern Conference Finals against Carolina and Game 1 of the Cup Final against St. Louis. They said they were going to have practice at TD Garden and they were going to sell tickets for people to come, and they sold out, and all of the proceeds went to the Boston Bruins Foundation. I went there, and the arena was literally packed as if it was Game 1 of the Cup Final. I'm expecting the same thing for the viewing party for Games 3 and 4 at TD Garden as well. So it really wouldn't like surprise me like whatsoever if it in fact sells out in a matter of minutes. In fact, I'm expecting it to.
I am too, especially when you consider this is probably the only chance that a lot of fans will have to get into the stadium during the finals. I mean, the
I agree.
tickets for the NBA finals are just outrageous. So if people want to get in there, just kind of experience some sort of the TD Garden atmosphere. Hell, this might be the only time they get in there all year. Tickets were
It's a great
expensive
point.
this year. They're only going up. So it gives people an opportunity to get in there, support the team with other people, with other fans. So I think it's going to be a home run. And like you said, I'm expecting to get sold out rather quickly.
I'm looking at the ticket price because I had not looked at it up until now. I hadn't, truth be
Oh, for the
told.
NBA finals?
Yeah, I'm looking
Yeah.
at
Oh,
it,
yeah.
and according to TickPick, Game 1 ticket prices are starting at $793. And by the way, TickPick, you don't pay fees. So what you see is what you actually pay. So Game 1 Thursday night starting at $793. Oh, by the way, Game 2, no problem, just only $100 more, starting at 891, which is really more like $900. And then probably just for like the 300 seats inside TD Garden, which again, there is no bad seat at the Garden at all for both Bruins and Celtics.
Especially during the
So
finals.
yeah, especially in the finals. So as you said, oh my God, if there's a Game 5, guess how much Game 5 tickets are going to go for?
They've got to be over 1,000 for the balcony.
1,225.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's
insane.
that's if there's a game 5.
It's crazy. So, like, thank God they're opening this up because it gets people in the building that otherwise wouldn't have been able to go in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. Now, in terms of the finals itself, can Tom just speed up just a little bit quicker?
I know.
A little bit quicker. I need the finals to get here like now. I'm ready, Justin. I'm dead serious. So
I've been waiting.
Like we've been waiting for like 10 days now. It's like, all right, come on now. Like we have literally beat up every freaking bad, shitty take there is in Boston.
I can't do it anymore.
Granular salt. Like, what else is there to talk about? We're ready to watch the games. So, as far as the X's and O's matchups are concerned, this is why I love the NBA. This is part of the reason why I love the NBA Finals, because especially when it's our team, the teams that we love, and you have the fortune of covering. I have the fortune of hosting on the Hub of Champions on Believe Network on such a great platform that is. We can look at the X's and O's in terms of matchups, forwards, center, your guards. Now, if you look at the Celtics and the Mavericks and so forth, as far as rosters are concerned, and you look at this team and you look at the matchups in terms of the guards, because we know that the Celtics have the best backcourt in the NBA in terms of Derek White and as well as Drew Holiday. But you look at Dallas, and I just get this funny feeling that they're kind of overlooked a little bit. I mean, which is surprising when you say that, okay, you have Kyrie in your backcourt. Yeah, but there's a little bit of an overlook factor there. When you look at the matchups in terms of just the guards alone, silly question, but I want your full-blown thoughts on this. Matchup advantage in terms of the guards between the Celtics and Mavericks. Go ahead.
I go with Dallas simply for the fact because they are a better scoring backcourt. Celtics have the best defensive backcourt. Dallas has the best offensive backcourt. And the Celtics are going to get creative when it comes to covering Luka Doncic. I would hope they cover him straight up as much as possible. I'm expecting to see some Jaylen Brown on there. We'll see. Just make him work. But in terms of the backcourts in general, I would lean Dallas just because they are arguably one of the best scoring backcourts the league has ever seen. And the Celtics can score as well, but they take a lesser role a little bit, the guards, because you have guys like Tatum, Brown, Porzingis. There's just so many mouths to feed. They don't necessarily need to score as much on a given night, but they're defensively, they are obviously the best in the league. So this is what you want. This is best backcourt in the NBA offensively, best backcourt in the NBA defensively. So it's going to make for fun.
And you know what's funny? You talk about the best defensive backcourt in the NBA. The Dallas Mavericks in the regular season, the average just a tick under 7 steals per game. The Celtics, they average 6.8. And yet, you look at the rebounds, the Celtics during the regular season, they average just a little bit over 46 per game as a team. Dallas, 42.9. We talked about this earlier in terms of the return of Kristaps Porzingis, and one of his strengths is his ability to be a good rim protector at times. But yeah, you look at Dallas, you look at Luka Doncic, you look at Lively and so forth, and you ask the question in terms of the forward/center position, who has the advantage there? And why?
Celtics, easy, because you have Tatum and Brown. I think that's a simple one. Those two are arguably one of the best duos in the NBA. So that one's an easy one. Tatum and Brown for sure. And they've been there at this point now. They're ready to learn from those mistakes. Obviously, we saw it when Tatum in 2022, when they made the finals, there were some lapses in there, evidenced in the fact that he turned the ball over 100 times, the most ever in a singular postseason run. But you know who he passed? LeBron James. So those are kind of a sign of growing pains. So they're going to go through. But Tatum's right on track here. LeBron won his at 26. Then KD was 28. Jordan was right in that area. Curry might have been 27, I believe. Tatum and Brown are right on track. They've been there at this point. They know what it's like. They've learned from their mistakes, and it's their time now. So I give the advantage of the wings and centers and bigs to the Celtics.
Derek Lively has been quite the story of these playoffs. And in case if many of you may not be familiar with his story, and I actually want to touch on this for a moment. He lost his father when he was 8 years old. Sadly, he also just lost his mother to cancer in April, if I'm not mistaken. And he has been a major reason, a major factor as to why the Mavericks are where they are currently now in the NBA Finals. When you think about a story of perseverance and just being able to persevere through such trial and tribulation before you even reach the legal age to drink alcohol, both your parents are gone. But
Right.
yet Derek Lively has continued to just persevere through in what has been an emotional time for him and his family. Like, I just want to get your overall thoughts on like just his story and as well as his journey to get to this point on just being able to persevere through such difficulty and as well as to still be able to perform on the biggest stage in the NBA.
I mean, that's a testament to him as a character, him as a person. I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's lost. People lose touch that these people are humans as well, right? And you expect them, you look at them as they're just these super athletes, they're these superhumans that they're not like us. They're kind of like demigods in a way. And that's just not the reality, right? These are normal human beings. They breathe the same, they bleed the same, they feel the same as us. And for a person like that at such a young age to lose both your parents and to still and he's always smiling too. Like, it's amazing. And that's a testament to him as a person. And that would be the case for anybody that's in that
Yeah.
situation. Granted, if you're an NBA player or not, I mean, for anyone to persevere through something like that is just absolutely incredible. So he's a player I'm always rooting for. Unfortunately, it's tough to do it on this stage, but I mean, just what he's been able to do is incredible. And it's been so nice to see him just be an immediate impact on that team. And he just seems to be, and granted, I don't cover the Mavericks, so I don't see him as closely,
Yeah.
but every time you see him on TV and I've seen him play at the Garden before, he just brings an energy. It's a positive energy. He just seems such a great dude. So it's amazing what he's been able to do. And I really hope he just continues to find success and continue to find the strength to just continue to persevere through that.
Oh, same with me as well. Like, I hope that he continues to like to just shine and just like, I mean, I'm proud of him, like just for the mere fact that I don't know how many people at his age to lose both your parents, especially on losing your mother as recently as he did to cancer, and still be able to like perform at a high level in the playoffs or any walk of life is it truly is inspiring, like to see. And speaking of inspiration, one player that I found myself to be really amazed by and inspired by is Derek White. Forget just the on court performance. Most Celtic fans know this by now, but in case of you, many of you don't, this is a player that wasn't even offered a D1 scholarship coming out of high school. He
Right.
had to literally claw and fight his way to get everything that he ever got in college and as well as the NBA. And here he is in the second NBA Finals in 3 years after getting traded to the Celtics from San Antonio two years ago. Yet his growth this past season has been nothing short of just absolutely incredible. And I tweeted about this at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals, and I said, Derek White, he's got that clutch gene. We saw it last year in Game 6 against Miami. That last shot that he made at the buzzer to force Game 7, and then we saw him shoot and make the Eastern Conference Finals winning shot, especially in those waning minutes. So I'll ask you now that Derek White, and we've seen this story all season long in the postseason, now in the NBA Finals, is it fair to say that Derek White is the biggest dark horse player for the Celtics in order for them to win their 18th NBA title, that he continues to show up big for this team as he has done all year long?
I'm not even all year long. Ever since he got here, right?
Yeah,
They've just been so good. He got here right around the midseason turnaround that got them to the NBA Finals, like you said. Two Eastern Conference Finals in 3 years. He's been, or two NBA Finals in 3 years.
yeah.
Been to the Eastern Conference Finals all 3 years. He is just super impactful, and he's a great two-way player. He's one of the best two-way players in the entire NBA. So at this point, I don't even know if it's appropriate to call him a dark horse because he's just that impactful and that good for the Celtics. So
Mhm.
just what he's been able to do. And to your point about the clutch, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I was kind of monitoring this throughout the year. He was one of the most impactful players in the clutch throughout the year. It'd be worth going back to look at the numbers on that, but he had the best plus minus. He was right above Damian Lillard. I think the only one that had more threes than him at one point in the season, like later in the season, was Steph Curry. So this
Yeah,
guy shows up when you need him most. And you talked about game 6 in Miami, the huge corner three in game 4 against Indy. He just makes winning plays. He is a winning player. And anytime you hear a player talk about Derek White, that's the first thing they say is that he's just a winning player. And he's also just the nicest guy ever. He's just super sweet. So it makes him so much easier to root for. So, and like you said, his story, his dad sending out highlight reel tapes to Division II schools in a hope to get him into a college program. He takes an offer, and then a couple of years later is at Colorado Division I. Then he's a first round pick. So unbelievable story. And that's one thing, and it's a topic for another day in the offseason, but you gotta get that guy paid. You gotta find a way to do it because he is just so important to what they want to do.
I was gonna ask this question next because it is going to be a topic of conversation. And yes, in the offseason, hopefully after the Celtics win it and there's and we have another parade in Boston. But yeah, the Celtics have got to find a way to like pay that man. Like
Yeah, you
I
have
don't
to.
care about anything else what they do in the offseason because like they have all their core guys, their key guys like signed like for multiple years. Like Tatum Brown all signed on multiple years. Porzingis is signed up for another year. Drew Holiday was he was given a 4-year contract extension and so forth. Derek White's the last piece, and Horford he wants to come back. He's welcome back,
And
but
he'll have another year
Derek
if he
White's
does
got to
want to
be
come back.
he's got to be the guy.
Well, the good thing, at least for now, is that looking at next year, you are guaranteed to have this top 6 retained. As long as Al Horford
Mm-hmm.
doesn't retire, he has another year on his deal. He can come back. Derek White has another year on his deal. And like you just mentioned, the rest of the top 4 are already on extension. So you know for a fact that you get to run it back with this core at least for another year. Even if you want to look at the bench guys, you want to go to the top 8, Pritchard signed the extension. Sam Hauser's got another year on his deal. So you are guaranteed to have this core for another year. And we don't want to put the cart in front of the horse here, but if they
Yeah,
are to win a championship this year and then have sustained success again next year, it's almost like the old Patriots at that point, right? Players
yeah.
want to
Good
be
point.
here to win championships. They want a chance to compete into June every year to get that thrill of victory, to potentially build a dynasty. And again, we don't want to put the cart in front of the horse, but it's hard not to, like, when you're looking at this team, how talented they are. Obviously, they got to
Mm-hmm.
get it done in the NBA Finals this year, and then we can start talking and have that conversation. But it's hard not to cross your mind, right? When these guys are locked up for the long term. So as long as you take care of business and do what you're supposed to do, players are going to have that incentive to want to come here and have a chance to compete and win championships. We saw it for years with Tom Brady, and we saw it with
Yep.
the Patriots, and we could be seeing that again with the Celtics. So this could quickly become a destination for players if it already isn't one.
Two more questions left before I wrap up the episode. The first one, you talked about in your previous response about winning players making winning plays. Drew Holiday comes to mind immediately when you said that. And I knew, in all honesty, I knew, and I'm sure that everyone who follows the NBA knew just how big of a get this was when the Celtics acquired Drew Holiday. And we saw it throughout the season. But I think in these playoffs, you've seen this even more. Whereas you needed a guy that has won a championship and has performed on the big stage and has that experience. And I think that's the one thing that the Celtics were lacking last year that they have this year in Drew Holiday. Justin, as far as his leadership and as well as his experience having won in the NBA Finals, he did it 3 years ago with the Milwaukee Bucks. How invaluable is that experience going to be in this series for the Celtics? During this series.
Well, first of all, I alluded to it earlier with Kyrie Irving, and I got the number. I wrote about it in an article,
Yeah,
and I
bring
had
it
to
up.
go
Go ahead.
pull it up. So, championship experience. I talked about it with Kyrie Irving. Since 2000, only 3 teams have won the NBA Finals without a prior champion on their roster. Celtics didn't have one. And then they go get one with Drew Holiday. So I think that tells you how important that championship pedigree is. And you saw it in Indiana. He comes up the game-winning steal in game 3, that offensive rebound in game 4. The guy, like you said, just makes winning plays. He's been there and can do it on the biggest stage. Celtics fans saw it in 2022 when he won the game for them at home in Boston. So
Correct.
this guy's gotten it done. He's done it before. And that kind of experience is just it's so invaluable. It's so important for what teams are trying to do. And for a guy that's been there, struggled when he was in Milwaukee, I think they went to a game 7 and I think another game 6. So he's been there. He's been battle tested. And as much as I hate that because it's another narrative surrounding the Celtics, Drew Holiday has been battle tested. So when you look at that, I just think like that experience that he brings, that kind of that knowledge that he brings is just so invaluable. And even a guy like Al Horford, who's just doing this for years. Granted, he doesn't have the cachet of Drew Holiday because he hasn't won the NBA Finals. The guy has been doing this for years. He's been in the league for 17 seasons. He's been to the playoffs numerous amount of times, been to the NBA Finals. So just the experience going into this, and obviously Drew Holiday's the head of that snake, but Jaylen, Jayson, I think it's 7 or 8 of the guys that are on that Celtics roster now were here in 2022. And most of it was that core that's still here. So I think these guys are ready. They know what to expect and they're ready to learn from those mistakes. And Drew Holiday's going to undoubtedly play a big role in that.
And final question, and I have to ask this question because I couldn't end the pod without talking about the one and only Al Horford. Outside of the obvious in terms of what the Celtics winning the NBA championship would mean to Boston, what it means to the Celtics organization, but as a team, what would it mean to finally get Al Horford the one thing that has eluded him, and he's been a Celtic for a while now, but to finally get him the ring that he is so richly deserved? What would that mean to this team?
I love that you asked this question because I actually wrote about this morning for WEEI.com, where
Check it out,
this
please.
team shouldn't need any additional motivation. But if for whatever reason they do, just turn and look at number 42. That guy should give you all the motivation you need. Look at even Joe Mazzulla was talking about it after they clinched in game 4 in Indiana. He was at a loss of words. He couldn't put into words how important Al Horford is to them, how he's just their inspiration. And you go back and listen to any press conference, whatever it may be, they all think so highly and talk so highly, and they love him. He is their unquestioned emotional leader. Every time before they take the court for layup lines, it's Al Horford that leads them out of that tunnel. Every single time. They love this guy. And if they, like I said, they shouldn't need any additional motivation. But if they do, the fact that Al Horford is still searching for that ring and they know that, that's going to give them the extra kick in the ass that they need because they love this guy. He is their inspiration. He is the ultimate Celtic. So he deserves it. And that they know that, and that's going to be on their mind for sure.
Game 1 of the NBA Finals, Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. tip-off on ABC. It's going to be, and it's going to be an incredible series, no matter how you spin it and look at it. And I certainly look forward to reading your coverage of that series, Justin Turpin. Check out his work for WEEI and WEEI.com as well. Look forward to hearing you throughout the series and as well as reading your coverage on the Celtics. Justin, again, thank you so much for taking the time as we are just dwindling closer and closer to the start of the NBA Finals. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me. You know I love chopping it up with you, so this is great.
Absolutely. My pleasure.